welcome back to my channel and welcome to my March wrap up. So I'm going to be sharing with you the books that I read in the second half of March. I did do a mid-March wrap up which I shared earlier in the month with the books I read for the first half, and this is going to be my stats and then the books that I read for the second half. So I'm going to dive straight into the stats and then we'll run through the books that I read. So in total, I read 27 books in the month of March. 14 of those were featured in my mid-month wrap-up and 13 of them are going to be featured in this video. So I'm just going to break down the different kind of subgenres that I read, or genres and subgenres that I read. So I read 3 historical romance, 6 contemporary romance, 2 small town romances, 3 sports romances, 1 mystery thriller, 1 horror, 9 fantasy romances or fantasy romances slash fantasy, 1 non-fiction and 1 graphic novel. And of those, 17 of them were physical reads, like print books, either paperback or hardback. I don't kind of split that out. 8 audiobooks and 2 ebooks. For ratings, it was a bit of a mix all over the place. So I had 1 2-star, 7 3 stars, 3 3.5 stars, 12 4 stars, and 4 5 stars. So most of the books that I was reading were like 4 stars and above, but obviously there were a few lower rated ones. Not out of the 27, 9 of those were new to me authors that I'd not read from before, and 18 of them were previously read authors. And then the breakdown of page count is kind of where it usually sits, with the most being in one section. So 4 books were less than 300 pages, 21 were between 300 and 499 pages, and 2 of those were over 500 pages. So that was the stats for this month. I really like keeping a track of these, and because I find it really interesting, especially at the end of the year, to go back and kind of compare to previous years. I always find that very interesting. So now we'll dive into the books that I read. So I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which I gave 3.5 stars to. This one I didn't really necessarily love, but it is one of the better Ali Hazelwood books that I've read. This one follows the romance between a swimmer and a diver. I did talk about these in one of my weekly reading vlogs, so I'll make sure I link that down below. But as I say, not my favourite Ali Hazelwood, but also not my least favourite. It was okay. A Monsoon Rising by Thea Guan San is book 2 in the Hurricane War series, and I really enjoyed this one and gave this one 4 stars. I thought this was a good continuation of the first book, and this one focused a lot more on the romance, which I really appreciated, so I really enjoyed seeing that in this one. And there is going to be a 3rd book, but I don't think there's been any announcement on the date for the 3rd book, so I will be picking that up as and when it comes out. Then I listened to Regarding the Duke by Grace Calloway, and I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one, and this one is a historical romance with an amnesia romance. So our main character, Adam, loses his memory because of an accident, and it is about him and his wife Gabrielle kind of redeveloping their relationship, and I really enjoyed this one. I liked we saw them redeveloping their romance, and I also liked him redeveloping his relationship with his children as well. I thought that was really interesting to see, because he did change after his accident, and he acted slightly differently, and I feel like he was more of a present father to his children than he probably was previously. Then I listened to Flowers on Main by Cheryl Woods. This is book 2 in the Chesapeake Shore series, and I gave this one 4 stars. This one follows Bree O'Brien, who is kind of one of the middle siblings from the O'Brien family, and she moves back into town and rekindles her romance with Jake, who is someone that she'd previously obviously had a romance with before, but she'd moved away to, I think it was Chicago, and she's now moved back to Chesapeake Shores after Some of her more recent plays had not been doing so well. So I enjoyed this one. This one is a great small town romance series following the O'Brien family. It's also been turned into a TV show, and I highly recommend the TV show. Then we have Tempting Boundaries by Carrie Ann Ryan, and this is book 2 in the Montgomery Inc. series, and I gave this one 4 stars. This one is a best friend's little sister romance, and this whole series centers around the Montgomery family, and they're a very large family. I think there's like 8 or 9 siblings, and this romance is between Decca and the youngest Montgomery, who is Miranda, and Decca is kind of like an honorary member of the Montgomery family. They've kind of unofficially adopted him into their family, and it is their romance. They've always kind of been attracted to each other, but they finally act on those feelings, and we get to see their romance develop, which I did really enjoy. I love this series, I love the family aspect, and I'm definitely going to be picking up more of the books in the series at some point. Then we have A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. This is book 2 in the Sacred Stones trilogy, and I gave this one 4 stars. So in this series we are following Arwen and, what was his name? Let me just have a quick look. Cain, that's it. Arwen and Cain, and this, in the first book, Arwen finds out some secrets about her past, or her true identity. Very typical fantasy trope there, where the main female character finds out that she's not necessarily who she thought she was. And we follow them as they continue on their journey in the war against the Fae King, and we kind of see that develop. This one ended on a really big cliffhanger, and I desperately want to pick up book 3, but my library doesn't have book 3. I think the paperback of book 3 comes out very soon, so I'm hoping that they might purchase a copy of the paperback, because the first 2 books they have in paperback, because I might end up buying a copy, but I don't want to just buy book 3, so if I can get it from the library, that would be ideal, but I do definitely want to read book 3, 100%. Then I read Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen, which is a very popular book that I've seen on TikTok, and this is book 1 in the Beasts of Briar series, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It is a Why Choose romance. We have Rosalina, who is human and stumbles into the world of the Fae, and there she meets the 4 Fae princes of the 4 Fae courts, autumn, summer, winter and spring. And in this one it was very much like a starting book. We're getting introduced to the characters, the world. We saw a little bit of romance, but I feel like the next books are going to be more romance focused, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the subsequent books. I have actually got book 2 out from the library already. Book 1 was only 384 pages, and book 2 is so much bigger. I'm not sure exactly how many pages it has, but when I picked it up I was like, wow, this is a lot bigger, so we'll be getting to that very soon. Then I listened to For Her Consideration by Amy Spaulding, and this is book 1 in the Out in Hollywood series, which I believe is a series of interconnecting standalones, and I enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is a FF romance between Nina and Ari. And Nina is working in kind of like a PR company. She responds to celebrities' emails that, like, you know, fans and stuff write into, and she responds to them as the celebrity. And Ari doesn't like the way that Nina has been responding to her email. She doesn't feel like the emails sound like authentically her. So she asks for a meeting between her and Nina, and their romance kind of goes from there. Really enjoyed this one. This one was a solid book. It was just like, there wasn't too much drama in it. There was, obviously there was a third act breakup, but I feel like it was just a solid, good book. Like not super memorable, but also like nothing bad about it. So solid 4 stars on that one. Then I read The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy, which is book 3 in the Campus Diaries series, and I enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I didn't like this one as much as the Dixon Rule, which I gave 5 stars to, but this one was good. This one we actually follow Charlie, what were the 2 guys' names? Charlie, Will and Beckett, and it is their romance, and this one was very interesting. It was interesting to see Elle Kennedy write a dynamic with 3 people. I think she might have done that in one of her other series as well, but I haven't read that one. But I thought that dynamic was interesting to see her tackle. I marked this one down. I gave it only 4 stars because whilst I enjoyed their character story, I like seeing their journey and their romance develop, I just didn't see necessarily it working long term. Like, I didn't get that feeling from them that they could last long term. You know, when you read some of the romances and you can see like a future with the characters, like long term, you can see them staying together. I'm not sure I could really see that with these characters, which when you're reading a romance, that is kind of what you want to see, I feel. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. It was also a little bit on the long side. It was 528 pages, so a little slightly too long. I feel like some things could have been cut out. Then I listened to The Villa by Jess Rider, and I gave this one 3 stars. This was the only, I think it was the only mystery thriller that I read this month, and it was just okay. So in this one we follow a group of women, and it's told in past and present timeline. So we have them in the past. I think it's like 3 years ago. They went to, can't remember where it was, somewhere in Spain, I think, for a hen do, and the bride ends up dying on this hen do. And we now flash forward 3 years in the future, 3 years later, and they are back in the same villa, and one of the main characters, I can't remember her name, Danny, I think it was, not 100% sure, but I think it was Danny, and she has lapses in her memory of that night, so she doesn't really remember about what happened, and she wants to go back to the villa and kind of see if she can kind of reignite her memories to see what really happened to the bride, because it got ruled as kind of an interrupted burglary, like a burglary gone wrong, and they like interrupted a burglar and she ended up getting killed, but Danny doesn't think that is what happens, and she wants to kind of see if she can remember. I didn't really like this one. Was okay. I gave it, as I say, I gave it 3 stars, but I feel that there was too many characters. I don't always like the past present writing style. Sometimes it works, but I didn't love it in this one, and I feel, as I say, I feel like the characters, they were different, but they also felt very similar. Like when I was reading them, because we did get different perspectives, I didn't feel like their voices were separate enough for them to kind of stand out in my mind. So that's why I only gave this one 3 stars. Then I listened to Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is book 2 in the Addicted series. And this one follows Lily and Lo's stories. Both of them have different addictions that they are trying to deal with. And in this one, they spend quite a bit of time apart. Lo has gone to rehab, and Lily is seeing a therapist for her addiction. And so we kind of see them struggling through their addictions whilst also being separated, but obviously wanting to be together. And I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. It was a good, solid read. Obviously this series follows the same couple, and their story's not complete. So at the end of book 2, they're not like on a happy ever after sort of thing. It will continue in book 3, and that is obviously going to continue throughout the series. I think there's 5 books in this series. I'm definitely going to be reading the other books at some point. Then I read Return to Us by Corinne Michaels, and this is book 1 in the Willow Creek Valley series. I liked this one. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is a small town romance with a single dad, and it is a second chance romance. I thought that this was really good. I liked seeing Jessica and Grayson get back together. Jessica had moved away from town to become a flight attendant, and she ends up in a plane accident, so she moves back to the small town to obviously recover and be kind of taken care of by her mum and sister. And when she's back in town, she rekindles her romance with Grayson. And I really liked the small town aspect. I love a small town series. I also enjoyed the single parent aspect. I liked seeing Jessica interact with the kids. Some single parent romances, we don't always get to see that, but I really like seeing that. I did feel in certain places, particularly towards the end, so at the beginning it felt a little bit slow, and then the ending felt quite rushed. At the end we get a lot of different, I won't go into what they are because I feel like that would be spoiling it, but there is a lot of dramatic things that happen like one after the other, and it felt very rushed. And some of it, there was one particular element that I felt didn't necessarily need to be in there, particularly when coupled with the fact that there were so many other dramatic things that ended the book. So that's why I only gave this one 4 stars rather than 5, but I am very much interested to continue on with this series. And then the last book I read for March, as I was trying to complete my March TBR, was Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling, and this is my non-fiction book of the month. This one I thought was okay. So there were elements, so this book is broken up into different essays about different topics, and some of them I found really interesting and some of them I wasn't so interested in. This one focuses more on her time doing the show The Mindy Project. So if you're a fan of The Office like I am, The Office was mentioned a lot more in her previous book, and this one there was a few mentions of it, but not as much as I personally would have liked. I didn't watch The Mindy Project, so I didn't really have a strong attachment to it, so when she kind of was talking about that, I wasn't so interested. I did like hearing about her friendship with BJ Novak from The Office. I thought that was good, and there were some kind of points that she made about women in the industry and kind of the standards that they're held up to that were interesting. But overall, I gave this, as I say, it was just okay. I also think that there were supposed to be, I'm sure it said either on the blurb or I saw some people saying in reviews that they thought this book was really funny, but I didn't really get that. I didn't think any of it was fun, any of the moments were funny, so I don't know if it was maybe just not my humour, but yeah, that one was just okay, and it's one that I did have a physical copy of that, but I have since got rid of it because I don't want to keep it on my shelf. But that is all that I read for March. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in my next one.